As we've fairly well established, the nation still does not know who Vice President Kamala Harris will choose as her running mate. The good news? Our reporters are following a few of the potential picks.
I'm Camilo Montoya-Galvez in the battleground state of Arizona. President Biden carried the state in the Sun Belt by only 10,000 votes in 2020, and the margins of victory here are again expected to be very small come November of this year. Vice President Harris is certainly facing an uphill battle in trying to turn the state blue yet again, but some Democratic voters here told us that she will have a better chance of winning Arizona by selecting Senator Mark Kelly as her running mate. Kelly, of course, is a former U.S. Navy pilot and the husband of Gabby Giffords. He's also a former astronaut, but importantly, he is viewed as a moderate and pragmatic voice in a deeply divided U.S. Congress. That profile, some argue, can help the Harris campaign attract independent voters as well as disaffected Republicans who are absolutely crucial here in Arizona. To win the state in the Sun Belt, the Harris campaign will also need to galvanize young voters and Latinos who make up 25% of the electorate here. Republicans, however, argue that concerns about inflation, the economy, and illegal crossings along the Mexican border will help former President Trump carry the state in November.
I'm Shawna Mizelle in Kentucky, where the state's governor, Andy Beshear, has been floated as a potential running mate for Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, what makes Beshear unique is the fact that he's a two-term Democratic governor in a state like Kentucky that traditionally votes for Republicans. And he talks a lot about bipartisanship as well, so that could be an advantage when it comes to bringing in moderate or independent voters. Now, Beshear has also been a very vocal supporter of abortion rights, and that could complement a lot of the work that we saw Harris doing out on the campaign trail before Biden dropped out of the race. We know that Harris embarks on a reproductive freedoms tour, hitting multiple battleground states and attempting to tie restrictive abortion bans to the legacy of her could-be opponent if she is the nominee, Donald Trump. And speaking of Donald Trump, Beshear could also provide a counter to Trump's running mate, J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance is a senator from Middletown, Ohio, but he has roots in Kentucky as well, in the Appalachia area. And over the past few days, we've seen J.D. Vance and Beshear trading barbs back and forth. But as of yesterday, Beshear told reporters that he has not yet been asked to submit vetting materials to the Harris campaign.
Earlier today, Governor Roy Cooper delivered remarks about a clean energy project in the state. Now, all eyes have been on Cooper as of late because of speculation that Vice President Harris might ask him to join her as her running mate. Now, Cooper would make a valuable addition to the ticket, given that he is a rather popular candidate here in North Carolina, a key battleground state where Donald Trump won just narrowly in 2020. Cooper has maintained support from both Democrats and Republicans and could be useful when trying to appeal to those more moderate voters that are so crucial this election year. But on a more personal level, Harris and Cooper go back way over a decade. The two know each other from their days as attorney generals of their respective states. They have developed a strong friendship over the years, and we have seen Cooper on the campaign trail with Harris multiple times this year. Now, Cooper has said that he backs Harris 100%, and while reporters have consistently asked him if he would accept Harris's request to join her as her running mate, he has remained rather coy about the subject and said he wishes to respect her selection process. However, he continues to voice his support from her and said he will do whatever he can to make sure that she wins in November and to make sure that Donald Trump stays out of the White House in November.
And we thank you all for your reporting.